Welcome to our AI Education Masterclass from Microsoft. I'm Dan and I'm with my colleagues today, Andrew and Amanda. Hi guys.
Hey, Dan, thanks so much for having us here today.
Yeah, really happy to be here, Dan.
It's going to be great that we can explore AI and how we can use it in the classroom, but also think about strategy and where we can go next to help our staff and our students with AI. I think one of the burning questions is around AI strategy and using that across your school. Very, very difficult to think about. Where should schools start, Amanda?
So I think, Dan, a policy is better than no policy at all. So it's pretty serious that we start to think about how AI is going to influence teaching and learning because it's here to stay,
Yeah.
and it's big. And the potential for workload reduction in teachers and the development of critical thinking in students is massive. We need to collaborate as well, ask AI experts, look at schools and what they're doing and work out who the stakeholders are and get updated on, best practices and what other schools are doing. But we've got some excellent resources on the Microsoft Educator Learn Centre, one of my favourite places to go, Andrew, full of resources. But we also help develop a AI guidance for schools toolkit with Teach AI, and it's got some really great guiding principles and real-world policy examples and sample language that you use in your comms, and that can be found at teachai.org/toolkit.
I think it's really important to acknowledge that AI is so new, right? We go back just only a few years. I remember the cassette tape and the CD-ROM. Now we have AI-infused classrooms. And as Amanda said, it is not going away. So I think identifying a very strong policy and how to implement that policy from a top-down perspective, because evidently it's the students that will benefit from using some of these great new tools in addition with the teachers.
It's so exciting because we all know that this technology is just, growing, moving at an exponential level. But I think we've already sort of highlighted that we're at this point now where the ability to enhance personalised learning, I think that's what I'm most excited about, right? Because as a teacher, that was one of the hardest things, was catering for, 25 to 30 different students in your class. But now we have the ability to use AI to help us do that. And also, just the power of creativity and being able to use Gen AI to give us different ideas to assess and plan lessons as well.
I think one of the greatest tips is actually to start with showing how much time Gen AI can save, especially around administrative tasks, but also for teaching and learning. So, Dan, we discussed how we implement AI policy within our schooling environment, but let's talk about the security and licensing implementations of AI. No Skynet jokes, obviously, but I'm sure it's going to be very friendly.
Yeah, so the good thing is that everybody in Australia and even worldwide, if you've got A3 licensing from Microsoft, you've got access to Copilot with commercial protection. And we'll show you how to use that a bit later in this series. But the Copilot tool with data protection means that when you are putting information about students or whatever into the tool, then it doesn't train the model. That's kind of erased. The history's kind of erased when you're doing those prompts. So you can put information into really tailor your prompts around students, around special educational needs and things like that. So the data isn't used to train any models. So it's a safe tool to utilize.
So I'm hearing a lot about AI PCs. What difference is it going to make? How does hardware fit into the story about optimising my use of Gen AI?
Yeah, so this is really exciting. At the minute, we're used to using AI beside us as a co-pilot, like we just talked about, but we're going to get AI inside the devices that we're utilizing. And say the Surface Range, we've got some amazing co-pilot PCs coming along, which is going to be fantastic. And what they've got is neural processing units. So a bit of a history lesson around these kind of processors and where AI is going inside the tools. We start off with CPUs. That's the central processing unit, the brain of the computer. And, that's something that's been around since the microprocessor was invented. And then moving forward to GPUs, a gaming where you wanted to do really, really quick mathematical calculations for like graphics and things like that. And in finance and the financial organizations needing to do maths really, really quickly, GPUs came into their own. And now obviously we've got NPUs. So AI is moving from beside us as our co-pilot to also inside the tools and technologies that we're using. So really, really interesting that we're going to get that AI done on the edge, because at the minute, AI is done in the cloud. So, you reach out to the cloud to do your Copilot prompts or whatever it may be. But now you can actually start to do that on the hardware itself. And that means you get less latency for those prompts that you're doing, but also you can get really good experiences for the classroom directly in the devices that you're using, which gives you really long battery life. The students don't need to charge for a couple of days, for example, because you're going to be able to do a lot of those things offloaded onto the NPU on the computer. You're going to have a lot better cost optimizations available with the devices that we can get in the AI PCs. And there's a lot of security and privacy features because you've got that AI directly in the hardware. So lots of the tools and technologies that we're going to be utilizing around, say, Microsoft Teams, other third-party products that might want to use AI on the edge, on your device, will really be able to take advantage of this new kind of architecture that's available in the classroom. So it's going to be really exciting.
It's going to save me a lot of time, especially when it can do summaries and take away a lot of those administrative tasks. Obviously, the teacher's still right there at the core of it, but the ability to take away a lot of mundane tasks, thanks to the power of our new Copilot Enhanced Plus PCs, is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And when we start to get more and more applications coming online with the Windows operating system as well, that'll be quite exciting. So there's tools like Recall, which you might have heard about, which basically snapshots everything you're doing as you go through your day-to-day teaching, for example, in the classroom. And you'll be able to then say, where did I talk about Pythagoras in my lesson? And you can kind of rewind your day, essentially, and say, that's what it was.
Do you know where I think this is going to be really powerful? In my teaching career, I've accidentally deleted my lesson, I've lost my lesson, someone's saved over my lesson, and I can just see how recalls kind of stop me from crying and breaking down and starting from scratch. I really can't wait to get into it.
Definitely. So we're going to hand over to our Surface expert, Michael Townsend, who's going to show us about the NPU and some really good examples of how this is going to use. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks, team. So you heard a little bit from Dan about the NPU versus a CPU and a GPU. This is the most powerful NPU that we've ever put in a Surface device before. And what it does is it offloads that information or those processing that would have been done on a CPU or a GPU, and it can do it much more efficiently. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that in action. So one of those is the studio effects on the webcam. So this will be used in Teams or any type of video application. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on automatic framing, which will follow me around like a film crew and frame my face. And then we've got background effects where we can blur, standard, or portrait for a bit of a softer look there. So again, this will take that processing off the CPU. The CPU is doing some screen recording and some other stuff here in the background, and it's quite important that it can still do that. It won't glitch, and this will do it much more efficiently, and it will do it using much less battery. Another example here is in Co-Creator. So I've already given it a description, a turtle swimming in the ocean, and then again, using the NPU, it will take my hand drawing here, and it will try and replicate that using a small language model on the device, and it does that in real time really quickly without having to go out to the web. And you can see there that the NPU took over there. It really didn't tax the CPU, and the CPU was free to do everything else. And another example of the NPU in action is live captioning. This is using the NPU in real time. It doesn't have to go out to the cloud, and it can translate from 40 languages into English in real time. So you can see here just from these couple of examples how powerful and how efficient these new NPUs are. And ultimately, this is going to give you much better battery life.
Thanks, Michael. That's a great demo, and it was great to see the NPU team, wasn't it, in action there, to see how that kind of offloads the processes from the CPU into the NPU to save some battery life. Can you think about other ways that could be used in a classroom?
Oh, 100%. And that's only a small sample of what you could use, obviously, the NPU for. When I think about my students, they're doing game design, they're doing STEM-related subjects, video editing, video creation. It's just a world of opportunities on how this is really going to accelerate and also future-proof their devices for the workplace.
And I think, the video example is really important too, because going back to that policy and changing the way that tasks are set, we're seeing a lot of movement towards students creating videos so that we can see them authentically presenting their knowledge. So this is just going to give them the power to do that and, have the battery, have the device there, and they'll be able to pump out these assessment tasks with ease.
That's fantastic. Talked about the hardware and where things are going there. When we think about the future of AI in education, where does this actually go for us, Amanda?
I talk to teachers a lot about it's great for situations where you might have been staring at a blank piece of paper for a really long time. Do you know what I mean? We've all had those moments. Yeah, writer's block. So we can sort of get something happening with Gen AI and then adapt that and change that. So speeding up that process. Report card comments. And I guess that's just going to mean that hopefully it frees up time for teachers to really focus on the teaching and learning side of things as well, and developing that rapport with their students and spending that time with their students.
I'm really excited about the ability to have one-to-one direct instruction for my students. You know, I
Yeah.
traditionally teach a class of 30, and to scale that can be challenging at the best of times. But now with our learning accelerators and some of our great AI tools built into Office, including obviously Copilot, they have more of a direct opportunity to have that one-to-one personalised learning experience. So as I move around the classroom and I'm providing my attention where needed, they're also being coached and having a personalised learning AI assistant to really accelerate where they need to be.
And that's really important, Andrew, because I think there are so many different AI tools out there. You know, we've got Copilot with commercial data protection, but we've got so much infused in Office now, and our learning accelerators, as you said, like reading progress. It basically analyzes as the student's reading performance for you and then gives you this data so you can know your students better and then plan extra activities or plan to teach them more effectively. So, yeah, and I think data is so important. Teachers have already had all this data, but AI is going to allow us to analyse that more effectively as well.
From an IT administrative point of view, you've also got tools to kind of support you for shadow IT. And what shadow IT is when people are starting to use anything.ai, because there's a lot of these tools becoming available now, which teachers in schools are utilizing, say add-ins for their browsers and things like that it's hard to keep control of. So you need to make sure that you're controlling those tools. And there's advanced tools inside your Microsoft licensing. Like there's a tool called a Cloud Access Security Broker. Sorry for the acronyms, but there's tools that you can utilize to kind of manage all of these other technologies that are actually being utilized by maybe teachers. So you can monitor it as an IT pro, block certain tools and things like that. And then when you start to look at M365 Copilot, which is when all of these really cool tools start to kind of develop inside Word, PowerPoint, and things like that, then you've got governance and compliance tools inside there, so you can manage, data sprawl, because, we've all shared documents with colleagues and things like that. And when we're using tools in our day-to-day and being grounded by the Microsoft 365 tools, then it might surface information, the things that we don't want to share, like share new CV or something like that, for example, Andrew. So the key is to kind of utilize the tools you've got around compliance and information protection, but know that everybody's got access to Copilot with data protection, so that you can actually utilize that safely in the classroom.
Right. So what I'm hearing here, obviously tenant administrators and school leaders have a lot of control and a lot of settings that they can customize, right?
Yeah,
Make it a safe environment.
Absolutely. And they are all the tools that are already embedded in your Microsoft environment that you can utilize. There's nothing new here. But it's important that those knobs and switches are turned on, and we'll share some of the technical documentation for IT pros listening to this in the show notes.
And so, Dan, just by signing in to Copilot with commercial data protection, that just means that, we take away that risk of a teacher or somebody in an organisation putting something in there. Hopefully, common sense would tell them not to put in there, but like student data and things like that, if it did go in, we just have that extra level of protection, right?
That's exactly right, yeah. And lots of other third-party tools don't have that, and it's important to just be mindful of that when your teachers are using other tools in the classroom, for example.
Yeah, that's a great safety net.
So, Andrew, you're in schools a lot. How are you seeing AI being used today in the classroom? Some examples.
So many ways in which, personally, I as a teacher are utilising AI, but also the students and the instructional leaders of classrooms. So we have everything from lesson planning to also having an AI assistant to do some review of policy, obviously, as we mentioned before, but also creating new and inventive ideas on how to spice up a curriculum aspect. That I'm a Hisey teacher, for example, and maybe I'm looking for a new way to introduce my medieval studies, or maybe there's a different way that I can come up with an icebreaker activity that will lead into ancient Egypt. Now I can safely use Copilot and some of our AI, Gen AI tools to really make a more cohesive and deeper lesson that would take me, and I'm sure I could do it on my own, so much more time without AI.
And you know, Dan, no teacher has ever said, I love making rubrics. I love making marking guides. So I think that the power of AI to really help us generate those rubrics and, give us a guide that we can then sort of keep working on to get the final product is a massive time saver as well, right?
I think there's a big opportunity for differentiation as well. So changing the reading level for students or adapting accessibility into your lesson plans, which AI can really come and give you a great analysis on where you might have to change certain elements or where you might have to increase certain text sizes, or maybe there's too much negative white space. I'm seeing a huge shift, obviously, of using it as an assistive tool, but also in the realm of information literacy, using it to analyse information and provide summaries that are going to be key for educators in their planning process, but also key for students.
And what about assessment? Because I know there's a big topic around assessment at the minute, and people thinking about how they can use it to plan for assessment.
So I have a lot of ELAD, English as a Second Language students within my class, and I use the AI to help me translate some of those assessments, some of those terms, to make them more bilingual in the sense of explaining what the task may be.
I was talking to an English teacher, and the students in the past had done a unit where they had to write a creative story and then do the illustrations to go with that. Now, obviously, time. They were drawing the images. It was really, really time consuming. So they introduced Gen AI to have the students generate the images to go with their story. And there's so much richness there because they're using the descriptive language from their writing to actually, make images that completely match. So yeah, really, really exciting opportunities, I think, with Gen AI in the curriculum. You know what's really cool too, from an accessibility point of view, you can use Gen AI to create alt text for images. So when you're setting up an accessibility in a document, if you're not happy with the alt text that Accessibility Checker provides, you can generate your own. There's an art gallery in Amsterdam that's actually alt texting all of their artwork. So vision impaired people can go and listen to the artwork.
We have to remember that every classroom, more or less, has some form of accessibility need. And now you have a tool, an AI assistant that can help you with those accessibility needs. My case in point, for example, I will have students that have English as a second language, or I have bilingual classes, or maybe I'm looking for some form of differentiation from my task so I can have it in different tiers to really complement their learning needs.
That's excellent. And I suppose with hybrid learning, when teachers are used to doing remote lessons as well, having MPUs and actual AI on the hardware means you can have really good quality audio, video feeds, lots of the kind of
live
tools.
Live translations, the live captions up so that we can keep abreast of those in our hybrid lessons as well, which is really, really exciting.
It's amazing. It's excellent, isn't it? And I suppose this entire conversation that we've had today, taking us through that journey of where schools are at the minute, thinking about policy, thinking about where they're actually going to start on that journey. Some are already further ahead than others, I suppose, but then all of these advantages, and we can see the future of it now being like inside the tools that we're using. There's no getting away from it, I suppose. So it's about embracing that technology and the technologies that are also embedded inside the tools that we've got already today, right?
100%.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Thanks both. That was excellent. I learned heaps today, and hope this really kind of gives you a good pathway for your journey forward towards AI maturity in your school. We've got extra videos that are available for you to have a deep dive into how this technology can be used in your classroom with you both. So I'm really excited to see those. So thanks for joining us today.